the Fifth Down NFL newsletter. I'm your host, Tony Tucker. I'm joined by the other co-founder. The other one, we are eventually going to get Joe Marley on this, so we can have all three of the founders of Fifth Down on this. But we are talking football. We're in week 10. The trade line just hit, and just as we all predicted, it was going to be the biggest trade. Wait, it wasn't. It was Jonathan Mingo to the Cowboys for a 4th-round pick and some other notes, which we may or may not get into in the show. Mike, what did you think of the NFL trade deadline before we get into all 5 downs this week?
I liked it, I guess. I didn't like any of the deals because none of them helped my personal team or any of the teams that I'm rooting for to succeed this season. So that's the part I didn't like so much. I do think it is overblown year after year by people on the internet who want to hype up the NFL fan base and profit off of the views generated from that hype. Not pointing any fingers, but when you look at it at a broader scope, DeAndre Hopkins to the Chiefs, that might be championship winning move. I think Amari Cooper to the Bills is super underrated move that we are going to be talking about late in the season way more than we are right now. There was some movement that's going to impact the playoffs for sure still.
That we're going to talk about the Cardinals in 3rd down, Baron Browning. I thought that was a move that was exciting. We'll talk more about the AZ Cards in 3rd down. But first, let's get to 1st down right here. Me and Mike want to talk about our Bolts. This is now the 5th week of the show, so you can't call me biased, right? I haven't put him into any of the downs yet. You know, we're going into, what is this, 5 times 5? This will be 25 downs that we've done on this show. 25. We have to talk about the Bolts. But we are both so excited. And it's not just because we have Herbert, one of the most underrated, best quarterbacks of all time, toughest quarterback of all time, according to Jim Harbaugh. But it's because of the defense, Mike. And I think it's like one of the craziest things, whether you're an NFL fan or a Chargers fan, whoever you are, for them to have the defensive coach and the way the defense played the last 3 years to how it's playing this year, like this is absolutely incredible stuff that we're getting to see every week. And I hope other fans who just love football are tuned in to see it. Go ahead. Gush about the Bolts.
It's beautiful. It brings a tear to the eye. That's how beautiful it is. That interception, that tipped ball, man, that was absolutely perfect defense. You got the pass rush, pressure in the quarterback's face, forced the throw before the receiver got all the way to the corner, and boom. DB makes a tip drill play to another DB interception. I mean, that is literally a defensive coordinator's dream right there for red zone defense. It's been a blast to watch this year, and it's that Vic Fangio, that fanny pack Fangio down to Staley and Donatella and whoever the hell else Vic Fangio passed that system on to across the NFL. It's poisoning defenses. I have a video coming out on this, Tony, that shows the teeter here of Chargers 2021, Chargers 2022, Chargers 2023, right? Coming from the bottom up, and then 2024 shoots to first. And then on the other side, 49ers 5th, 49ers 9th, 49ers 1st, shifts to 20th. And what happened in that year? Brendan Staley moved to San Francisco. I'm just saying. There's a correlation.
The internet is going to love that video for sure. So I think, I watch this and I start looking at it and I go, this is the kind of defense that just gets hot and just keeps carrying it. And they have a 5-game stretch coming up, starting with the Tennessee Titans this week, and then following with games like against Atlanta, against the Bengals, the Ravens, the Chiefs. Over the next 5 weeks, we're really going to get to see this defense be tested at home, on the road. It's going to be so much fun. And it's like the offense is so close to clicking into place, right? 2nd down is inspired by a text message I got from Mike. I'm going to see if he stays consistent with it. But in this down, we're talking about who's the best team in the NFC right now. I'm going to let Mike start this one off.
The best team in the NFC today? I still think it's the Detroit Lions as of right now.
You let me down. Mike sent me a text message about the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think that there's a lot of credence to that, but I'm going to be in agreement with Mike's overall opinion, right? Where it's like, it is the Lions, because the Lions are playing the kind of football right now that we saw from the 49ers when they were building up what we call the list of Avengers, right? And they're getting to that point where it's like, now they might get home field advantage. I still think, like, when I look at the Eagles' schedule, I don't think it's out of question that the Eagles get the 1 seed, and then all of a sudden we might revisit this where Mike's text message is looks extremely correct in a game in late January in Philadelphia in a snowstorm or something like that, right? Where it's like that, then I think that shifts the tables a lot.
Well, I do a good job in fantasy football and in all things football of making sure I'm set up to win no matter what, Tony, because I also came on, I think, this show last week and said I think the Lions are going to win out. So let's just get – I think both these two teams are the two teams to beat in the NFC for certain. Right now, where I'm leaning the Lions' way is, one, the camaraderie in the team, and I've seen that be shaken in Philadelphia multiple times over the last couple of years. And yes, they had the experience of running to the Super Bowl. I think the Lions have pretty good experience from last year's playoff run to a point that they probably feel like they should have went to the Super Bowl. And you could see a chip on the shoulder. I give them that edge. And then just flat out, to be honest, when it comes down to it in playoff football, I'm going to take Jared Goff to stand there when a team forces him to stand there and deliver a key third down conversion over Jalen Hurts right now. Those are the two things that have me leaning Detroit's way as being the best team in the NFC. As of right now, my pick to go to the Super Bowl.
Well, I think that when we look at it, it's like it's so close. This is when we start thinking about who's making the decisions as a play caller, right? Mm-hmm. Who's the one that we think is a little bit more creative and like some of the luster's worn off Kellen Moore. Let's not lie and pretend like we weren't super excited about Kellen Moore coming to the Chargers last year. That didn't work out for a multitude of reasons. In first down, you talked a little bit about the Fangio scheme being passed down. I will say that Vic Fangio is pretty good at his own scheme. Now, everybody else, not so great at it. It's kind of like the Bill Belichick factor. All of his defensive coordinators go away, and the defenses just don't have the same effect. But the Eagles' defense is getting better, right? If I'm an Eagles fan, it's like, oh, our offensive line is just as good. Our receiving weapons, our running back, like everything is just as good. This, to me, is the game that I want to see in the NFC Championship game. I don't want to see the 49ers back there again. I want to see, either a game in Detroit or a game in Philadelphia between these two teams. And I think that would be one of the best games all year, like probably in multiple years. Like teams that can both have electric plays in the pass game, but can also just play smash mouth football or run the ball a lot in the case of the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think it's sort of a 1A, 1B situation. Like that's how I look at the NFC.
I think it's that close too, and we could be looking back at this as a battle of attrition down the stretch. Let's see.
Let's go into third down, and I want to give a love to a team that I feel like I listen to a lot of sports talk radio and a lot of podcasts and stuff like that. Nobody ever talks about the Arizona Cardinals, but they're good. Like, I just don't understand why we can't look at a team, and just because we don't necessarily know all the players, like I'm familiar with a lot of the players because I'm a nerd and enjoy watching football, but like, I mean, it's a good football team. Like you look around, you're like, they're playing really tough on defense. They're staying in games. Kyler Murray is playing amazing top 7 quarterback style play in the NFL. They're figuring out ways to incorporate Marvin Harrison into this offense. I still think Trey McBride is the best. And then James Conner, like this is the Terminator, like right here, like the guy who comes back and saves the day. Like this, he just doesn't go away. He's just always there. You got any love for the Cardinals? Do you think that the Cardinals can win the NFC West? Do you think that highly of them?
I do think highly of the Cardinals. This is a team in the preseason that I think me and you both were saying is going to be an underrated squad if Kyler Murray can continue to bounce back from the injury. We saw him start it last year. I don't think that they're going to win the NFC West necessarily. I think that they're going to be a team that is they're heating up, but they're going to be up and down week to week like they've been just because they're so young still. I still think there's a lot of holes in their starting lineup that they're trying to work through and fill. I think Marvin Harrison is still getting his feet under him as a dominant week-to-week receiver in this league. And there's going to be games where the offense struggles. And that's something I've come to grips on in fantasy football as well. And you've seen it with some of the crazy trades that I've made with Cardinals players recently. I think look out for the Rams. I think that's the team with the experience. Say, hey, we're down, but we're not out. And you got Puka losing his mind in the tunnel after getting ejected from a game. Like the vibes in LA, maybe I'm being biased here. And I also feel like sometimes things happen for a reason, and Puka got kicked out of that game and was rested by a higher power because of all the injuries and stuff he's been dealing with. The Rams get out of that game with the W anyways. Like, I like the Rams as favorites to win the West, but I see what you're saying about the Cardinals. They definitely deserve more wild card potential buzz, a team that I think could be in the NFC wild card when we get to the playoffs. I think that could happen.
So right now they have a 1-game lead, 5-4.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to look it up, so I knew that I was correct. Rams 4-4, 49ers 4-4, and Seahawks 4-5. Right, and the Seahawks is just—they're in a situation right now where at a certain point, do you check to see what you have with Sam Howell on this team? Like, do you check to see if the young guy, if you could go to him next year, and what does it look like? Now, I don't necessarily think that I would start next season with him as my starting quarterback, but like I think you kind of owe it to your franchise to check it out, see what you traded for there. But the Cardinals have wins over the 49ers and over the Rams already in this division with a 1-game lead. They still they're gonna get a bye week coming up here in a few weeks. It's like I'm looking around going, Cardinals, this is a sneaky. I had them at 7 wins, and I remember somebody in the comments in one of them was like, "This guy's crazy." It's like, okay, you're right. Crazy.
Cardinals
and I was
fans,
right about one thing. Finally.
Yeah, Cardinals fans, maybe Tony's on to something here. I'm still salty. Y'all ruined my vacation. I was on vacation for that game.
Yeah.
5 field goal drives. I mean, holy crap, just hitting my head against the wall. Worse timing than this ad on my TV right now.
I think that was one of those games, without diving too deep into it, they got the bounces on Monday night, right? They got them all. Mm-hmm. And that's what, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good is the old cliche. Here we go. And they say it's better to be lucky than good. That's a perfect transition as we get into 4th down. And this is this week's picks against the spreads. Last week I was 2-3. Mike was 2-1. We both missed on the Buffalo Bills. I also missed. The New England Patriots get to overtime. The young guy Drake May slinging the rock out there almost got me to a winning week. I believe I'm 16-14 on this season. I want like a 4-1, 5-0 week. Here we go. Let's get into these picks this week. I want to start off, and I'm just going to say right now I have a lot of road favorites, which does not make me feel good. Ugh, here we go. Falcons at the Saints -3.5. You fire your coach, and fingers are being pointed. Awful things are being said about Derek Carr, and I like the direction the Falcons are heading. Game's still inside in a dome in New Orleans. I like the Niners coming off a bye week. I know they're flying all the way out to Tampa, but -5.5, you're getting back CMC, so now all of a sudden Todd Bowles has got to start preparing for stuff like that and guessing ways they might use him. Team's starting to get healthier. I think I read that Juwan Jennings might be back or is back or whatever it is. Debo, Kittle, figure it out there. -5.5. Lions -3.5 against the Texans after the way I just watched them play against the Jets. I'm sorry, but I just feel like 3.5 points is not enough, even though the Lions are on the road. Game in a dome. I think this one's a big win. Another road team I got this week, +2.5. The Steelers are getting points on the road. And I just think this is a really good football team coming off of a bye. Everybody should be pretty healthy. They should have been able to continue to develop the pass game there. They get a win over the Commanders in Washington. And finally, Monday Night Football, Dolphins versus the Rams. I don't feel great about this. Rams, -2.5. I'm going to take them to beat the Dolphins by 3. It's just sort of like when I watch the Rams, it's just like my heart's just going like this. I'm like, ugh! And some of the throws that Matthew Stafford made in that game, pressure just right in his face. He threw one ball in overtime to Tyler Johnson. I was like, This is a pick. Oh my gosh, he got it. And I'm like freaking out. I'm like, I can't believe the drive's still going alive. And throw to Demarcus Robinson. So one more time, so I can get this into the socials. I got the Falcons -3.5. The Niners -5.5. The Lions -3.5. The Steelers +2.5. And the Rams -2.5 for the socials. There we go.
Risky. Mike, very risky playing against the Dolphins again after last week, Tony. It's very, very, very risky. We both confidently smashed, like, I think 6 points or something on with the Bills. It was pretty big. And they got us. That's pretty buzzy. You ready for me to give mine?
Yes, I am.
All right. I got 4 for you this week. I'm going to work my way to your level. Had a good start, beginner's luck maybe. Now we're going to give 4 picks this week, and then maybe we'll do 5 next week. But I'm starting it off tonight, by the way. A couple weeks ago, everyone got really hyped about the game the Bengals put up against this Ravens team. Jamar Chase had 2 touchdowns. Freaking T. Higgins had 2 touchdowns. Gesicki was catching balls down the field. The running backs were making plays. Joe Burrow had a crazy game, and they lost by 3. Tonight, they're down T. Higgins. I think that the Bengals defense is still maybe the most overrated defense in football. I know that they've been up and down all year. They've had great games. They've had terrible games. I think everything pours down on the Bengals tonight, and the Ravens blow them out. So I'm taking the Ravens -6 to start this off. So y'all can call me an idiot or call me a genius in a couple hours. And then the Steelers are going. Are they going to Washington? It's in Washington, right? I trust them no matter where the freaking game is being played. I think that this is a perfect game for the Steelers to win by a touchdown or more, and I think they're up 3 or they're down 3 points to the Commanders. So I think with this defense going against a rookie quarterback, they're at least covering the 3, but I'd take the Steelers outright. My next one is the Denver Broncos to cover against the Chiefs. I think this game's going to be close. The defensive battle, like a lot of the Chiefs games have been, like a lot of the Broncos games have been this year, comes down to a late game field goal win for the Chiefs, but the Broncos cover the 7.5 that I'm seeing here. Even if it's 7, even if it's 6.5, I like it. And then I don't know if last week I yelled into this microphone, but I know I definitely was posting all over my pages about it. But I definitely took the Chargers point spread last week with very much confidence. And you think 7 points against the Titans is enough? Get out of here. I'm taking the Chargers -7 as well. To recap, Ravens -6 to start 1-0 tonight. I just want to really get everyone excited about the rest of my picks, so they put that parlay in Saturday morning. Steelers +3, Broncos +7.5, and Chargers -7. Go cash in.
I like it. I almost had the Chargers and the Broncos in here because I saw the Broncos early in the week at +9.5, and I was like, "That's a lot of points." So, yeah, we'll see, and the Chargers too. But I told you last week, I just don't like betting on my team in any shape or form because then it's just a double whammy.
Mason Rudolph.
Let's get to 5th down. The game of the week, and I'm picking this week, is the Steelers going to play the Commanders. I think that we have 2 teams right here that are fighting to win their division, right? I think the Commanders are on top of the NFC East right now, I believe. And then you have the Steelers that are on top of the NFC North. And the Steelers still have a lot, or maybe even all of those division games, which is weird, to play. Baltimore and Cincinnati. We don't know where Cincinnati's going to be. But I look at this game and I think to myself, like, you guys, if you're watching or watched before, you already know I'm taking the Steelers +2.5. So spoiler alert there, I'm picking them. But this is why I'm picking them in this game. I think that each week we've seen Najee Harris get a little bit more comfortable in what's happening here, especially with Russell Wilson. The offensive line is starting to dominate a little bit. He's starting to figure a few different things out. Now they can get Mike Williams out there onto this field, and you have somebody like Russell Wilson who's really good at throwing those deep balls out there, really just good at just dropping them in the bucket. Call me, nuts or whatever, but when I'm watching the game, does Kelvin Austin remind you a little bit of a young Tyler Lockett catching some of those passes where, like, all of a sudden you're like, wait, he's too small to be catching the ball down, and it's just like, there it is. And it's just in there for a touchdown. And then you get a more of a DK Metcalf comp in George Pickens outside. Like, can Mike Williams come in there and add another layer? Van Jefferson has played better with Russell Wilson out there and Pat Freiermuth over the middle. I like everything I've been seeing from the Commanders this year. Last week I had Jaden Daniels as my number 5 pick for MVP. But I can't. This Steelers team, this defense is going to test that offensive line like I don't think they've been tested all year. So I got the Steelers. I feel pretty good. Where are you at on the game of the week?
Well, the Steelers were in my picks. I kind of spoiled this one early. I'm with you 100%. I think all of the takes that you just gave about the defense, playing the rookie quarterback, and then even piling on a little bit more of the mental side of the game of football, you just see young teams off of miracle wins like Hail Marys out of nowhere for touchdowns. You see it so much that they let a downer on them the next week. And honestly, offensively, I feel like the Commanders should have put up more points in that game against the Bears than they even did. And this defense against the Steelers is like the Bears defense on steroids. You got a better player at every spot that's just a little bit better than that Bears defense, which is really good. It's damn self. So I think that we're going to see that downer game here. I feel very comfortable about the Steelers this week, continuing to pile up the wins and continuing to keep up in the AFC North. That's another thing mentally. A team like the Steelers watching this Thursday night game, it can lock you in. You see whatever happens tonight, either Cincinnati or Baltimore wins. You can say, okay, we're ready to match that this weekend.
Yeah, I do. I think some of those things, whether players want to admit it or not, is you do a little looking around at what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and the thing about Russ is, it's like, go figure. Make the guy perfectly comfortable in the exact offense that he's had any success in his life, and he starts to succeed again. Like, it just proves that he should be making the salary he's making now and not the salary he got paid. And it's a whole other topic, but the salaries of the quarterbacks are all effed up.
So I think the Hall of Fame, a lot of times with players who are on the cusp, is narrative driven. And what happened in Denver, all of a sudden Russ went from like, oh yeah, he's a Hall of Famer in Seattle. And then a couple of down years in Denver. I think he does need a extended playoff run. Maybe that's something we'll talk about later in the season in greater depth. I will say this too about the Commanders. A lot of red zone woes. If they figure that out this week, because they can move the football. You know, they need Brian Robinson Jr. to be out there and be healthy. He helps. Even if he's not super effective, you want that guy that can grind the football. But they got to figure it out in the red zone because they struggled to score in the red zone against the Giants in both of those games. Lots of field goal, when they get down there. You got to score touchdowns when you're playing teams that are at the top. So we boboth like the Steelers this week.
He could have helped, maybe. Perfect timing. Damn it.
Yeah, we will go 5-0. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the Fifth Down NFL newsletter. We appreciate you for stopping by. Please consider subscribing, liking the video, telling a friend, getting in the comments, letting us know what's up. We will see you next week. Hope everybody has a tremendous weekend and wins money, their team wins, all those positive, happy things that you want.